Welcome to EDH 502 Unit 6 Presentation 1. In this presentation, we will be talking about how we can modify challenging behaviors. The first question that comes to our mind, even before we think about challenging behaviors, is what is behavior? Behavior is anything an organism or living being does. We must remember that all behaviors must be observable and measurable, and they include actions, verbalizations, manifestations of emotions, and thoughts. The next question that we should think of is what are challenging behaviors? Challenging behavior is a term used to describe behavior that interferes with an individual's or a carer's daily life. Common examples of challenging behavior are aggression, self injurious behavior, property destruction, oppositional behavior, stereotype behaviors, socially inappropriate behaviors, and withdrawn behaviors. The term challenging behaviors is used as a way to label the behaviors as challenging rather than label the person as the problem. Challenging behaviors affects many people in the community and is not an inevitable result of developmental disabilities. The development of challenging behaviors is less likely when people with a developmental disability are taught pro-social behaviors from an early age and are provided with environments that eliminate the necessity to behave in problematic ways. While a professional's attention may be focused on the behavior, it is also important to maintain an appreciation of the positive aspects of individuals with the disability. Challenging behavior may seriously affect a person's health and quality of life. Problem behaviors can have global consequences in the area of social behaviors, educational areas. It could lead to an injury, which could lead to unrecognized pain or discomfort. It could include property destruction, and it could have legal ramifications and liability issues. We must remember that behavior is a form of communication. It serves a function or purpose for the person. Challenging behaviors are maintained if the person is successful in altering their internal or external environment through their behavior. So we could say that behavior is a function of the interactions between the person and the environment. Interventions that are put in place must address variables maintaining that behavior. Therefore, it would be very, very important for us to figure out what the function of the behavior is, and we must be able to evaluate the outcomes functionally. So it's really, really, once again, really critical for us to figure out what the function of the behavior is. If we haven't determined the function of the behavior, chances are that we will not be able to support the individual who has these challenging behaviors. Talking about the context of in the context of a classroom, we all know that students spend majority of their school day in the classroom, and majority of the discipline problems therefore originate in the classrooms and usually result in removal from instruction. Therefore, it is important that the students remain engaged in instruction so that they can succeed both academically as well as socially, because in a classroom they are able to spend time with their peers and have the social interactions that might be critical. Punishment is not always or probably never is the solution. So you should not be the teacher or a professional who's always just focusing on punishment, because basically you're taking away time from instruction and the opportunity to support students to overcome the challenging behaviors that they are exhibiting. A well-managed classroom is task-oriented. Students have things to do. They are engaged and they are always busy. They are challenged and motivated to work. It's a predictable environment. We know exactly what's going to happen. There is a routine that has been set for the students, so there is no confusion. The rules are clear, and once again, if everything is in place, students would be motivated to work and would be able to stay away from exhibiting or challenging behaviors. Uh, a well managed classroom is always ready to avoid confusion and is waiting for students. The students feel welcome and safe in this environment, and therefore they perform at their best levels. For a classroom to be well managed, it must have a teacher who is effective. Now, what are some characteristics of an effective teacher? An effective teacher has positive expectations for all students. The teacher has no biases. They leave the biases aside when they come into the classroom, and they want to work with each and every student and have high expectations of them. A good, effective teacher is an extremely good classroom manager, and it is because of this skill the classroom will be well managed. It will be a classroom where the students feel welcome, and most of the time would be spent on instruction as opposed to managing behaviors. An effective teacher also knows how to design lessons for student mastery. So, an effective teacher is one who has mastered the skill of differentiated instruction. He or she knows how to involve each and every student so that they learn at their best and are successful. The two critical terms that we must remember when we think about classroom environment and management are that behavior is functionally related to the teaching environment. Behavior is what the student does, and teaching environment is all that happens before, during, and after the student's behavior. So, once again, here we're talking about antecedents, behaviors, and consequences, which we have talked in an earlier unit. So we all know that behavior has several functions, and one of them could be attention from adults or peers. It could be to attain power or control. It could be to escape a task. It could be to feel good, and the student just wants to play by escaping the task, and if that's what's happening, it is because of the fear of failure. The student wants to escape the task because they are scared that they will fail. It could be getting something, that would be sensory feedback, which could be hand flapping, eye poking, etc., or head banging also in some cases. Or it could be imitation. As you know, modeling plays a very important role, so student could just be imitating someone because they think that that is the appropriate behavior. Some proactive classroom intervention strategies, which should actually fall under the first tier of the whole PBS model that we talked about, should be classroom rules, which should be strong. Students should feel that they need to follow them, and if you can have them take ownership, then research indicates that it has a great influence on students. There should be a set classroom schedule, because then the students know what is coming up, so they can predict what to do next. It could be about physical space. Once again, the classroom should be welcome, students should feel safe. You could have an attention signal every time a behavior occurs. Instead of calling out the student, you could have a signal. You should have beginning and ending routines. This would make transitions easier. Always have student work which is meaningful for them, something that they can relate to, something that is motivating to them, something that they want to work on. And then the last but not the least is the classroom management plan. If you have a set classroom management plan, things would work smoothly, and students would focus more on instruction. They would be more involved and engaged. Therefore, not this would prevent them from exhibiting challenging behaviors. You as a professional should also always focus on what you want students to do instead of the challenging behavior. So you should think about replacement behaviors that you could put in place. You should look for patterns of behavior that suggest functional relationships. You could teach replacement behavior and provide multiple opportunities to practice. And you should deliver high rates of positive feedback. And I think we talked about for every one negative feedback, there should be 8 positive feedbacks. And this should be provided every time a student displays a replacement behavior.